A very warm welcome to everyone, and thank you so much for dialing in for today's important webinar on the ICMED schemes and the CE certification scheme, which are very important for anyone who is working in the medical devices sector, be it the entrepreneur or the manufacturer. The entire webinar series would not have been possible without the support that Anil sir has been offering to IIT Kanpur. He is one of our esteemed alumni. And in order to officiate today's webinar, we have the Professor, Dean of Research and Development, IIT Kanpur, Professor A.R. Harish. And I would request him to kindly officiate the webinar and introduce our esteemed speakers. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Aditi. Good afternoon. Hello and welcome to all for today's session on ICMED schemes for medical devices with a focus on ICMED 13485 plus. IIT Kanpur is building up a rich ecosystem to leverage the next generation medical device entrepreneurs and disruptive technologies. Deep understanding of the regulatory and quality conformance pathway is very crucial for the success of this event. As an effort to bridge the gap in awareness and understanding, SIIC IITK is organizing this month-long webinar series, and I once again welcome you all to this webinar series. It's my pleasure to introduce our speakers for today's webinar. The first speaker will be Mr. Mrityunjay Jaina. He is currently the Director at National Accreditation Board for Certification Bodies, NABCB. He has more than 27 years of experience in the field of quality, working in management system certification, including 12 plus years in National Accreditation Body, NABCB. He is known for his active participation and contribution as a member of technical committee in the development of QCI voluntary certification schemes, ICMED 9000, ICMED 13485, and ICMED 13485 plus. His involvement in various ISO technical mirror committees for the development of ISO standards, development of various management system accreditation programs is also notable. The next speaker would be Mr. Parvinder Jeet Singh. He is the head of the medical devices at Intertech India Private Limited. He has an extensive 29 years of experience in medical and related industry. He also has 25 years of experience in notified bodies for CE mark and other associated services. He is also well known for conducting audits for active and non-active medical devices. It's my pleasure to welcome both the speakers, and I'll be standing by and looking forward to listening to them. The first speaker, over to you, Mr. Mrityunjay Jaina. Thank you.
Good afternoon, all of you, and thank you, Dr. Harish, Professor Harish. And it's a good opportunity for us, and like to thank the IIT Kanpur for giving us this opportunity to QCI, Quality Council of India, to speak about the ICMED scheme, which is Indian certification for medical devices manufacturers. So I'm going to share these PPTs and we'll start.
So we can see your screen. Thank you.
Yeah. So to start about the quality, the ICMED program, I would be touch upon about the QCI, Quality Council of India, my organization. So the Quality Council of India is the apex body for all this accreditation infrastructure, whether it is quality management system, or product certification or inspection body, any accreditation infrastructure in India. And as we know, there are three pillars of the any accreditation and certification infrastructure. One is the standard body, which is the Bureau of Indian Standard, and second one is the National Physical Laboratory, which is National Meteorology Institute, and third one is the Quality Council of India. And these are the three major pillars of any accreditation structure. So it was established. Quality Council of India was established in 1997, and it's with the support of ministries and also the main major industrial associations like CII, FICCI, and ASSOCHAM in our country. And it was mainly focused on the infrastructure of quality and accreditation infrastructure. And it's functionally, it is a autonomous body and non-profit organizations. And our main reporting ministry is the Department of Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, is a nodal point in the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. And this Quality Council of India is headed by Chairman presently Mr. Adil Jainul Bhai, and Secretary General is the CEO of Quality Council of India. The day-to-day activities is run by monitored by this Secretary General of Quality Council of India. Under this Quality Council of India, there are mainly 5 boards and special project. Another is the special project groups. Under the accreditation infrastructure, NABCB is the national accreditation body which looks after the accreditation of certification body, inspection body, GHG, validation verification, and NABERT is the next accreditation body, looks after the training activities of any accreditation, and NABH is the national accreditation board for hospital and healthcare providers. NABL, most of you may be knowing NABL, which is older than Quality Council of India. Earlier, it was under the Ministry of DST and the Department DST, and now it is under Quality Council of India under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. That looks after the accreditation of testing and calibration laboratories. And the 5th board, which is not accreditation board, that is a national board for quality promotion. So any promotional activities under the ministry or on various activities which is given by Quality Council of India, that is looked after under NBQP. Apart from these 4 accreditation body and 5th one is the quality promotion, there is a special project group. This project group helps and supports the ministries at different level of monitoring and developing the policies infrastructure of the country. So PPID, project planning and implementation division, that looks after the various policies under different department and ministries. PADD is the project analysis and documentation division. This division generally is nowadays responsible for all these schemes under Quality Council of India. So schemes are developed under this PADD division. And the third one is the Z, that is for a specific project, that is zero defect and zero effect division, which looks after this implementation development of this zero project, which was also presently also it is the baby of MSME, Ministry of Small and Small Scale Industries ministries. So overall, this is the total infrastructure of quality in India under Quality Council of India. So regarding my presentation on the ICMED Indian Certification of Medical Devices, the content of this presentation would be what is the certification criteria, then registration process, how the industry can go for a certification under a approved certification body by Quality Council of India under PADD. Then the about processes, what are the processes being followed by the certification body to grant certificate to the industry for ICMED certification. Then the maintenance after once the industry, any particular industry gets into the certification, what are the maintenance, how it will be validated, how the surveillance will be carried out, if any issue, suspension, withdrawal, then complaint handling process, then how to use the logo of ICMED, all these maintenance certification. This will be my annex, I mean to say the content of the today presentation. So many of you may be knowing this ICMED has a 3 level of certification scheme. Recently that ICMED 1348 Plus was launched on 18th June 2021, And but the first level is ICMED 9001 scheme, which is based on the management system 9001, ISO 9001 2015 version, which is the latest version. And the base standard is that. And in addition to that, there are about 29 additional requirements which has been added into that. So to become a ICMED 9000 requirements. Then second level is again it is management system based, which is based on ISO 13485, which is QMS MDQ, medical devices quality management system. In addition to that, there are Indian medical device rules 2017 requirements and additional requirements on the labeling and essential principles, environmental requirements, hygienic requirements. Altogether, there are about 270 requirements which constitute the ICMED 13485 scheme level 2. The third level, as I mentioned you, this is the third level recently launched, which is purely a product certification. So past two schemes are management system, just like quality management system, 9000 or 13485 based. But in addition to that, there are some certain requirements, regulatory requirements, which comes from the MDR, Indian MDR 2017. So all these schemes are applicable only for the manufacturers. This is most important thing is that any traders or any other than manufacturers cannot participate. I mean to say cannot go for the certification of ICMED. So this is the what I have explained in the previous slide. This talks about this graphical presentation. One side is the medical device rules 2017. These are the components that fifth schedule, which is QMS requirements as per the 13485 2003 old version. Whereas this ICMED scheme, the latest version, issue number 2, 2019, it's we have revised to ISO 13485 2016. There are some additional requirements. Then second is additional regulatory requirements, including environmental standards as per the MDR rules. And similarly, in our ICMED revised version, we have added some 23 additional regulatory requirements. Then 16 additional labeling requirements, which are supportive to the consumer protection requirements. And then similarly in ICMED 13485, we have added 13 essential patient safety requirements, whereas in MDR 2017, which is equivalent to guideline on essential requirements. And these four levels are management system level, that is level 1 and level 2, which is ICMED 9000 and ICMED 13485. Then last two levels, that is adding the horizontal standard on the product requirements and the product standard, which is a vertical standard requirements. Addition of these two levels to ICMED 13485, one can go for a ICMED plus. So ICMED plus requirement is ICMED 13485 plus the horizontal standard requirements of the product and the vertical product specific technical requirements of the product. So after meeting these additional two requirements, based on the ICMED 13485, one can go for ICMED 13485 plus, which is a product certification. So as I mentioned, this is a product certification, manufacturer certification. So as per the Department of Pharmacy on Make in India Public Procurement Order 2017, what is local content of the medical devices. So Indian manufacturer means, so on the left hand side, category of medical devices, the type of medical devices, then percentage of minimum local content. This is on value, means in amount. So if the medical disposables and consumables, it should be minimum 50% of the local content should be there, domestic contents. Then it can be Indian manufacturers. So similarly for various implants, then diagnostic IVD, the percentages are given, and this also revises year to year. So this was based on the 2017. So this is the differentiator of ICMED 9000, ICMED 13485, and ICMED 13485 plus. Very specifically, for the medical devices, the requirement is ICMED 13485 plus because this is based on the ISO 13485 plus. I mean, this is ISO 13485, which is a quality management system for medical devices. But for those suppliers, small supplier, which are supplying to manufacturer for medical devices, product or devices, they should go for the ICMED 9000. That was the purpose of developing ICMED 9000 under ICMED scheme. ICMED 13485, which covers, as I mentioned you, the base standard ISO 13485 2016. Then MDR requirements 2017. Though the schedule 5 is based on 2003 of ISO 13485, but we have revised it to 2016 version. So more additional requirement in ICMED 13485 is that installation, maintenance, repair, service, and rework procedures. These were not included in the MDR. Labeling requirements for consumer protection, that is has been added into ICMED 13485 schemes. Then environmental requirements, which is as per the Indian MDR 2017 Annexure A, and essential requirements for patient safety. 13 requirements are added. And as I mentioned you, ICMED 13485 plus is the requirement which one has to cover ICMED 13485 and product safety and performance standards. As I mentioned you, that is some horizontal standards and some vertical product specific standards, which is a product certification leading to a product certification. How to go about certification? So these are the information. If any industry, any manufacturers, medical device manufacturer wants to go for ICMED certification, so these information they can go through the website of certification body approved by a Quality Council of India for these particular schemes. So application form, reference to the certification criteria which are available on the website, a detailed procedure of certification under the schemes, what are the procedure for going for certification, list of documents required along with the applications, fees for application till continuous maintenance of the certificate, and policy for fee. Those are also available in the certification body website. So application form, this application form is developed by the certification body based on certain requirements of the scheme requirements. So the applicant has to indicate type of certifications, which type, I mean to say whether it is a level 1 or level 2 or the level 3 presently for the product certification. So the certification, the applicant has to very clearly mention which level they are interested for going for this ICMED certification. Details of manufacturing facility, number of sites. If the manufacturer is operating in a multi-site operation at different activities at different level, or a particular device, medical device, particular location, that has to very clearly mention the number of sites, activities to be audited, and list of medical device in scopes. So what are the medical device or the products they are going to include into the certification of ICMED, that they have to mention very clearly in the applications. Each and every manufacturing facility shall be audited. So that is the reason why at the time of application, the manufacturer has to very clearly mention what are the locations where they are manufacturing partly or doing assembly or complete manufacturing of any particular product or the medical devices. So list of documents as per the applied criteria documents review has to be carried out. Only completion of complete applications supported with required documents shall be accepted. This is a part of the application review by the QCI division. So they will, once they receive, I mean to say for the manufacturers, once the application is submitted to particular certification body, the certification body will review and process for the further certification for a particular scheme. So these are some requirements very clearly spelled out in the scheme. So the time period one has to adhere, the certification body and the manufacturer has to adhere while applying to the certification body for the scheme. Response to the queries from the applicant has to be within 7 days. If you have any manufacturer has any issues, any clarification required, and requested the particular certification body, so that has to be addressed within 7 days. Applicant has to furnish all relevant information on the prescribed form. If approved earlier for the same scheme, with other CB. So it may sometimes happen once the manufacturer is already approved for a let's say ICMED 9000 or ICMED 13485 from a certification body A, then with certain region they want to transfer from certification A to certification B for a particular scheme, ICMED 9000 or ICMED 13485. Then in that case, they have to mention the region, the earlier the name of the certification body they had undergone for the audit and certification of ICMED scheme. The CB now may verify and evaluate the previous reports. That means the reports has to be also submitted to the new certification body, the next certification body the industry wants to switch over. So similarly, if any judicial proceedings are going on, which needs to be verified, so these has to be verified by the next certification body to whom the client is shifting from one certification body to another certification body. Then certification is granted only against the current relevant certification standard. I mean, it's a criteria. As I mentioned, initially the scheme ICMED scheme level 1 and level 2 was 2015 version, 16 version. Then it was revised latest in 2019. Now the issue is 2019 version, issue 2. So any industry going for ICMED certification has to meet the requirements of revision 2 or issue 2 of this ICMED level 1 and level 2. Then application review status to be informed to the applicant within 7 days. You are expected that the certification body has to provide you the application review, whether it is accepted, your application is accepted or not with reason. So it has to be submitted to the applicant within 7 days of time. So only complete application has to be accepted and registered with the unique ID number by the certification board. So these are some of the reasons for rejection of the application. So initial evaluation is not carried out within 3 months of registration of the application. If you have registered the application, because of some reason you are not able to submit the adequate documents which are required, or timely the application is means required documents are not submitted to the certification body. So in that case, within 3 months, means beyond 3 months, your application will be rejected. So entire certification process is not completed within 6 months. So this is also another requirements in under which your application means applicant's application will be rejected on this background. So applicant shows no progress towards completion of the corrective actions. If the office assessment has been completed, initial office assessment by the certification body, then in that case also, if there are any findings or non-conformities, minor or major nature, so those are not closed within specified of 3 months time initial evaluation and 6 months of registration application. Both the things, both the criteria has to be met. If it is not meeting the 3 months criteria of the corrective action, and from the initial stage, I mean to say application evaluation of and 6 months registration of application, in that case it will be rejected. Then misuse of certification under the scheme, if it is there, even after not after before grant of certification, if it is observed that the industry is using the logo or the scheme logo, misusing the in the platform marketing platform that you are already certified, under that circumstances also the application can be rejected by the certification body. Then evidence of any malpractices which is observed in the application stage also, if it is observed from the market scenario, then also those information can be considered by the certification body for rejecting the application. And request for grant of certification from applicant whose application rejected as above reasons or the scenario and or certificate expired may be processed like a fresh application. If it is rejected, then it will be considered as a fresh application after meeting the requirements of the scheme. And there is also possibility, these are the forced measure, I mean, it's a forced rejection of applications. And there may be a reason for if the industry manufacturers after a certain period, 2 months or 3 months, they found they don't have competence and they don't want to go for certification presently, then they can withdraw voluntarily with a request to the certification body that they are not presently interested and they can they want to withdraw the application. That is also possible. But in that case, the application fee, if already charged, is not refundable. So in case of declaration about any proceedings or suspension, etc., the client application will not be entertained for a period, certain period, that is as mentioned in our scheme, that is for 1 year. So if there is a proceedings, legal case, or any suspension, I mean to say the previous certification body has suspended, I mean to say withdrawn the scheme certification. So in that case, there would be a gap of 1 year maintained from the date of conviction or suspension or withdrawal of the deregistration, etc., of the scheme by the certification body. In the certification of any level means level 1 or level 2 under the scheme, suspended or cancelled by any approved certification body, the application will not be accepted till suspension is revoked. In case of suspension or 1 year from the date of action, however, other facilities will not be affected under the same legal entity. If the same legal entity has undergone for the ISO 9001 or ISO 13485, it will not be impacted on this particular scheme. So the ISO certification by a CB other than IFMLA signatory accredited will not be accepted in this particular scheme. So it has to be by NABCB accredited certification board. So where facilities that is certified by NABCB accredited CB audit for scheme criteria will be carried out only. So because the client, the manufacturer has already undergone ISO 9001 or ISO 13485 standard already. So as I mentioned you, this ICMED level 1 or level 2 are based on ISO 9001 and ISO 13485 for respectively. So only the additionality requirements as per the level 1, level 2 will be audited by the certification body. That is the reason why. So only the additional Monday will be counted. Means will be spent at the manufacturing end, not the entire for ISO 9000 and additional requirement, because it's already accredited certification body. They have already undergone the certification for ISO 9000 and ISO 13485. So for this level and level 2, these are the audit time duration. This is for only level 1, level 2, because this is based on ISO 9001, ISO 13485. So there would be 2-stage audit by the certification body. So stage 1 audit will be 20% of the entire Mondays calculated based on the number of employees, the number of sites, based on the IFMD 5 requirements. So and the stage 2 audit will be 80% of the Monday decided by the certification body based on IFMD 5. Similarly, for ISO 13485, which is based on document standard like ICMED 13485, this level 2. So Monday will be calculated based on IFMD 9. This is IFMD 9 is used for the ISO 13485 2016 MDQMS audit. So based on this, the Monday will be considered for ICMED 13485. So time duration shall be calculated for each manufacturing facility. If they have 3-4 multi-site locations, so individually that will be considered, that will be calculated, and finally the Monday will be communicated to the manufacturers by the certification body before auditing activity starts. So this is the part of the contract review at the time of application review. Then the certification body signs the contract, and how much Monday they are going to spend stage 1 and stage 2, they will mention that. So minimum 1 Monday is 8 hours for each audit site. That is a normal process of 1 Monday means it is a 8-hour audits. So document review and audit preparation and report preparation time shall be additional. At least 1 Monday has to be spent by the certification body as per the scheme requirements, whether it is level 1 or level 2. So these are the Monday for ICMED level 1, that is 9000, and ICMED level 2, that is ICMED 13485. So Mondays will be as per IFMD 5 for level 1, and plus 1 Monday, because this 1 Monday will be spent for the additionality requirements compliance checking. And similarly for the ICMED 2 level, the Monday will be IFMD 9 Mondays plus 1 Monday on site. And the third level, which is recently launched, and our focus today is product certification, that is level 3, that is ICMED 13485 plus. So this these mandates will be spent by the certification body, that will be decided by the certification body, and the certification body has to develop a system for how they are going to calculate the mandates to be spent at manufacturer end, stage 1 or stage 2 level, so that they have to decide, and no doubt with a justification how that mandate will be different from different means if it is a multi-site locations, if it is a multi products at different locations, so whether it is a risky product that is implantable, active implantable, or non-active implantable, or non-implantable, so based on that the certification body has to determine a procedure, a documented procedure to with a justification the how much money the certification body is going to spend in case to case. So these are the requirements for the 3 levels, that is for getting into certification, and similarly that is the requirement for the certification body to get into accreditation. Which I mentioned you, this level 1 and level 2, which is ICMED 9000 and ICMED 134, these are the management system level. So these are based on the accreditation, means the certification body competence we check based on the ISO IEC 17021-1 requirements, which is accreditation requirement and which we ensure that the certification body has the competency to certify the product under management system level 1, level 2, and these are the requirements. And for level 3 requirements, as I mentioned, this is a product certification. So the competency of the certification body is ensured by NABCB or accreditation body based on the management system accreditation, that is 17021-1, and also ISO IC 17065 product certification accreditation requirements. So this is this competency of the certification body approved by NABCB, and which are providing services for the medical device manufacturer for this level 1, level 2, level 3 is ensured by NABCB. Their competency, how they qualify their auditors to do the audits on various level of ICMED certification under this standard. So these are the overall process of level 1, level 2. The submission of application of associated documents by the applicant CB, then document review process by the assessment team, by the certification body, that is reviewed, and the assessment office assessment. This is a process of how we grant I mean to the certification body approval for this ICMED schemes level 1, level 2, and level 3. So this is the scheme. This is based on the ISO 17021 and 7065 for level 3 also. So this is the system we follow. The stage 1 is document review. We do the document review, and based on the related accreditation standard and the scheme requirements, then the CB competency is verified. Then on-site assessment is carried out. If any finding, that has to be closed. Then the third process is witnessing, if required. But in this particular case, the witness is required once the certification body is provisionally approved by QCI, and within a 1 year, the witness is required. The certification body's competence has to be checked within that 1 year. Then CB most often NABCB accreditation 1 year provisional approval is given. So within 1 year, the CB has to go for a accreditation, whether it is level 1, level 2 for ICMED scheme, that is for 7021. And this is if the certification body is going for grant of accreditation for level 3 scheme, that is ICMED 13485 plus, then the certification body has to go for accreditation for 7021 and ISO 17065 product certification, both those standards. So this is for the level 3. That is, as I mentioned, this additionality is only the ICMED plus, that is product certification at 2 levels, that is horizontal standards and the vertical standard of the product category or the product specific product. So this is the only additional requirements. Otherwise, the previous slide, what the process will be followed are the same stages at different stages. The additionality is only the product certification competency has to be checked by the certification body at the industry level, and also same thing is also we checked, the QCI will check while granting the provisional approval to the certification body, and at the same time the NABCB also will check the competency of certification body for product certification standard and the 7021 standard requirements for granting any certification body for the level 3 competency. So these are the preliminary information to be provided to the certification body. This is already, I have already covered previously, and some requirements. One, as a industry manufacturers, if you are interested to go for ICMED 1 or 2 or 3 level requirements, so you should also know, you can expect that yes, there would be a team which is going to come from the certification body to do the audits, and how the team competency would be there. So for your information, audit team having appropriate competency knowledge, the CB has to decide a team. If there is a technical expert required for a particular medical device sector, so then the certification body will consider that and bring that competency to the audit team to do the competent audit, adequate audit as per the scheme requirements. Then audit has to be conducted while the plant is operation. This is most important. It's not that the plant is not operational and audit you are offering your organization for ISO, I mean to say ICMED any level certification. So this is a requirement that audit has to be conducted while the operation plant is under operation. So the audit can be conducted in parts between the team members, because the team will be having maybe more than one auditor based on the means it depends upon the number of sites you have, number of products or the devices, medical devices you want to cover under certification. Based on that, the team size will be increased. So based on that and the competency of the audit team members, so the team will consist of different members, and if required also team expert also, technical expert will provide the technical expertise to the CB team. Then all activities as per the scope such as design, manufacture, etc. shall be audited irrespective of the locations. So this is the requirements, and also as per the MDR 2017 requirements, because as I mentioned you, this ICMED scheme revision 2 issue 2, this is the latest one. So this is based on the also the MDR, Indian MDR 2017. So in that case, except class A, so B, C, D classification of the medical devices requires design and development has to be mandatory. So you cannot exclude that design and development in case of B, C, D. So class A, yes, with justification you can exclude the design and development. So HO shall be audited if it is a multi-location. Then HO shall be audited if controlling multiple facilities or the activities. That is always as part of the audit. And stage 1, stage 2 audit, these are the requirements. At client premises, it has to be on the client premises always on site. Though presently, due to the pandemic situation, everything is on the remote. So for the time it is applicable. Otherwise, it will be always on site stage 1 audit. And if they, as I mentioned you, if a organization or the manufacturer is already certified and transferring its certificate, ICMED certificate from one CB to another, then there is a requirement of IAF MD. That is, IAF is the International Accreditation Forum, which controls the accreditation infrastructure of the globe, and NABCB is one of the signatory member of IAF. So IAF publishes some documents which are applicable for the accredited certification bodies and the a member of the accreditation IAF accreditation bodies. So this IFMD2 transport document has to be applicable, and the CB will use this while considering the number of mandates, what are the aspect has to be covered during the audit of the transport audit. So this will be covered to ensure status of overall preparedness. This will be covered to collect the information. These are the objective of the stage 1 audit while conducting the CB at the client premises. So stage 2 shall be conducted on site to verify the compliance of the criteria. There are criteria for the ICMED 9000, ICMED 13485, ICMED 13485 plus. So various criteria are there available on the website of the scheme owner, that is the QCI, and also it will be referred in the certification bodies, approved certification bodies website. So organization requirement, what the industry should have. So at least one person at manufacturing and QA side who is at supervisory position and whom time employee, full-time employee with a qualification. This is the qualification requirement. So manufacturer, medical device manufacturer has to meet this requirement before applying to the ICMED level 1 or level 2 requirements. So graduate or engineering pharmacy, so 1.5 years, graduate in science education, then 3 years diploma in engineering or pharmacy, 4 years experience. One has to be at least one person in the industry. I mean, this is the manufacturers, manufacturing side. So it should be a manufacturing, research, or QA in medical devices. So what are the safety during this audit? One has to be followed. So these are the many I mean, medical device manufacturers may involve risk linked to work environment, to identify and analyze the risk and accordingly to provide prevention and protection to the responsibility of the manufacturer. This is required to be ensured by the manufacturer for the audit team of the certification body. Then auditor must have PPEs, which may be required while auditing the different activities on manufacturing side. Then non-conformities need to be reported in writing with the evidence to the clients for taking necessary action. Stipulated time is 1 to 3 months at different level, and the findings will be of a major or a minor type, classified as major and minor type. And in case of non-conformities, root cause analysis and inform the same along with the corrective action, preventive action. So the manufacturer has to provide the what are the corrective action and preventive action before to that root cause analysis. What are the reason for this particular findings, major or minor non-conformities? So need to be closed before the initial certification is granted for this scheme. So without there is no conditional grant of certification of level 1, level 2, or level 3. So one has to complete the certification process as defined in the criteria. So then only the initial certification will be granted by the certification body. So report requirement, CB shall send the audit report within 7 days working time after the audit. This is the requirement, and as a industry, you are expecting the report within 7 days from the certification body. Then audit report for stage 1, stage 2 shall clearly provide evidence and conclusions about the fulfillment of the audit objective of the criteria. These criteria, as I mentioned you, these are the criteria specific to level 1, level 2, or level 3. So which are already defined by the scheme owner under this ICMED scheme. So the decision in respect of granting certificates has to be based on proper evaluation and review. So this will be checked by the approved certification body of Quality Council of India. The report shall cover these as a minimum requirements. So these are the requirements: name, address of the client, data and time of the date and time of the audit criteria. What are the criteria with the latest version, whether it is issue 1 or issue 2, if it is both are parallelly existing. So that has to mention structure of audit manufacturing facilities. So whether there is a multi-site and one location with different activities, or head office is doing everything one location. So all this has to be mentioned with the activities. What are the scope of activities performed at a particular locations? Report on auditing covering additional requirements with the evidence of the competence. So findings, all these has to be part of the audit report. Then once the certification is granted, then The first surveillance will be within 12 months for level 1, level 2 level 2 schemes. Then second, announce, this is a very specific scheme requirements, unlike ISO 9000 or ISO 1345 standards certification. The second audit is unannounced, but it is expected that 9 to 12 months time after the first one. So as a industry going for the certification, so once you are initially certified to level 1 or level 2, expect that within 9 to 12 months after the first audit, first surveillance audit, so anytime they will come, the certification body will visit your premises to carry out the surveillance too. So shall be carried out on site as mentioned in the criteria. The audit mandates also be as prescribed. As I mentioned you, this is what are the mandates that has to be based on the IFMD 5 for level 1 and IFMD 9 for level 2 requirements. So initially, and also surveillance. Surveillance is always 1/3 of the initial mandate spent during the grant of certification to the any level. So this will be 1/3 of the surveillance mandate. 1/3 of the mandate spent during the initial certification. So after the expiry of the validity period, this is for 3 years validity, level 1, level 2. So after the expiry of validity period, 3 years normally, the notice for the CB has to be spent prior to 4 years, 4 months in expiry. Before expiry, 4 months. So the CB has to be notice. You will get a notice, means industry will get a notice that your expiry is so and so month and this week, this year. So you have to apply in advance. So the organization has to apply in the prescribed form of CB along with the fee. So at least 3 months expiry. And these are the requirements. CB shall review the performance of the organization during the entire certification cycle, during the recertification renewals, before renewal of the certification. So review shall be conducted by a competent person, essentially to be based on the following requirements: surveillance requirement, RA reports, recertification, re-audit report, recertification audit reports, closure of findings, any suspension during the previous validity period, all these complaint handling, adverse information from stakeholders, regulators, anything is resolved or unresolved, those aspect will be considered for while considering the recertification to a particular scheme. So renewal of certification when performance of the organization found unsatisfactory, the CB will withhold the renewal, giving time for the effective corrective action. So it's not that after 3 years you will be renewed, your certificate will be renewed. If there is an unsatisfactory audit, so findings are not closed, so there are some justified reason, then that will be under hold. So for a certain period, and during that period, corrective action has to be submitted, and that has to be reviewed and accepted by the certification body. Then only the certificate can be renewed. So the verification and the decision making have to be completed. These are the requirements of the certification body which has to be followed. The corrective action shall be verified on site. If not, then justification for off-site review has to be. Otherwise, it is on site. Otherwise, if with a justification, so that can be done. So in case of manufacturer only doesn't complete satisfactory action within these 3 months period, that is on a withheld period, then the certificate shall stand expired from the date of expiry of the previous validity. So this is also 3 months extension is given. That means if any corrective action not closed, then 3 months can be under withheld. Then within the 3 months, the satisfactory corrective action has to be submitted and accepted by the audit team of the certification body. So these are fee structure. Fee structure is already that will be available on our QCI website, and also the certification body providing these services approved by QCI. Their site also will get the this thing requirements. So regarding the use of the mark or the logo of the ICMED. So the ICMED scheme owner, the QCI has already decided that there would be a 3 color of different level 1, level 2, and level 3. Level 1 would be a blue color with ICMED this logo, and or any gray color for all these scheme. Then level 2 ICMED 1348 will be red color or the gray color, and the plus will be only this green color, light green color, or the gray color with plus mark. So requirement for the use of the mark and obligation of the approved certification body, process for how to use this certification mark, all these are available on our QCI website. Anyone can download, and once you go for a certification, and industry is going for certification, the certification body will sign a legal contract with the individual manufacturers going for certification, how to use this logo of ICMED and the QCI logo, I mean to say scheme logo, or the if it is accredited under NABCB certification body, then the NABCB mark. So all those will be provided at the time of granting the certification, whether it is provisional or it is formal certification for different levels. So all these criteria are available on our website also, criteria for approval, then eligibility. These are the provisional approval system by the Quality Council of India, because going directly accreditation by the certification body to provide the services takes time, because the NABCB accreditation requires 3 level, as I mentioned you. One is document review, then the on-site office assessment, then the witness assessment. Witness assessment means the certification body has to do actual audit doing at the site, and the NABCB accreditation team, assessment team, will do the observation of the actual audit performed at the premises of the industry. So these are the requirements. Then for applying accreditation by the certification body, one has to meet these requirements, means they must have at least certified some clients under this scheme. So without any scheme approval, certification body cannot issue any certificate to the industry. So it is a egg and hen story. So what QCI has decided, let's provide a provisional approval system to the certification body based on that certain requirements, not the entire accreditation requirements, because without meeting the entire accreditation requirement as per ISO accreditation standard, that is for management 17021 or ISO 17065 product certification, so we cannot accredit. There is no provisional accreditation system globally. So QCI has developed such provisional approval system. So QCI will, based on certain requirements, certain principles of competency and impartiality, conflict of interest issues, and the competency of the auditor of the certification body on for this particular scheme. So provisional approval is given. So once provisional approval is given by the approved certification body, then the certified industry can go for the certification, and based on this experience of the certification body, within 1 year they can go for accreditation. So once they are accredited for this particular scheme, level 1, level 2, level 3, then their certificate is continually valid. So presently there are not much accredited certification body for particularly this scheme, that is ICMED scheme. There are 5 accredited certification bodies, and if you will ask me about ISO 13485 accreditation, so we have already granted 12 accredited certification bodies for ISO 13485 2016 version, and out of these 12 certification bodies accredited, around 8 certification bodies, they have already applied to CDSCO for getting into MDR audit as a notified bodies. So this is all about on ICMED different level certification schemes that has been in place by the Quality Council of India, and any industry going for interested for this ICMED certification level 1, level 2, level 3, they can approach to the approved certification body which are available on our website, QCI website. So they can approach to them and go for certification which is valid in India. So thank you very much. Any question, anything?
Thank you, Jana sir. So we have 2 questions in the Q&A box. One is ICMED 13485 a prerequisite of 13485 plus? Also, where does manufacturing license from CDSCO come into picture in all of this? Basically, the person wants to know what is the difference between QMS certification, that is ISO 13485 and ICMED 13485, production certificate, which is ICMED 13485 plus, and manufacturing license CDSCO.
Yeah. So just I'll go back to the slide. I have the initial slide. So the ISO 13485, that is MDQMS certification, is only the requirements one has to meet the ISO 13485 requirement. No doubt the regulatory requirements, because any ISO standard needs the regulatory requirement, legal requirements. That is the requirements for going for ISO 13485 certification. So the difference between ICMED, I mean to say 13485 ISO 13485 certification and ICMED 13485 certification level 2 is that. So there are some additional requirements like what are the hygienic requirements, what is the maintenance requirements, what is the repair requirements, what is the personal health grievances, the infrastructure suitable for medical devices, waste management, clinical trial with proper permission requirements, safety features, essential requirements. So labeling and packaging requirements, installation, these are the additional requirements which are not included in the ISO 13485 certification. So these are the requirements. And your the third part of this query is that licensing. So if licensing is the requirement of the I mean to say regulator, that is a CDSCO, that is based on the MDR 2017 requirements. So directly ICMED as on date is not, if you are already ICMED certified to 13485, automatically it is not qualifying you for the licensing. So presently, but we are in the process of dialogue with the Department of I mean to say CDSCO, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, and we are expecting that in near future it will be accepted that if you are already ICMED 13485 certified industry, then there will be no audit by the MDR under the CDSCO MDR 2017 audit. But at present, the MDR audit, MDR 2017 audit and licensing are not linked with ICMED 13485. Hope I could able to answer the questions.
Thank you, sir. The next question is, if a certifying body is accredited for ISO 13485 under UKAS, then can the certifying body go for ICMED 13485?
In past, we have considered if the certification body is accredited by a IAF signatory accreditation, I mean, IAF signatory, that is UKAS. Yes, UKAS is the UK accreditation body member, I mean, signatory to IAF for this medical devices. So if it is accredited to that, we can consider that for the ICMED 13485. I mean to say the first part can be, means additional, only for additional requirements we can spend time, means our CB can spend time and go for this certification. That can be considered. But thing is that certification body, you have to check whether the certification body is approved by QCI under this scheme or not. So that is the requirement. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir. We have many more questions, sir. I would request you to answer those questions in the chat box.
Yeah,
the Q&A box, sir, because we are running a little late for our next session. Thank you, Jenna, sir, for this informative presentation. I would now request Mr. Singh to please discuss the nuances of CE certification. Mrityunjay, sir, you can respond to the query in the Q&A box. Yes.
Sure, Aditi. I will share my screen.
Mrityunjay, you can stop sharing.
You have to stop sharing. But,
yes.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Mr. Singh, you can please share your screen and begin the presentation.
Can you see the screen now?
No. Please try again.
Okay, let me try again.
We can see it now, sir.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Now, this session would be about the CE marking requirements. My name is Parvinder Singh, and I'm, head medical devices from Intertech India Private Limited. Just one slide on the Intertech operations worldwide. Intertech is a global ethic business, solution provider with over 42,000 employees worldwide, and having more than 1,000 offices across the globe. The yellow spots which you are seeing on your screens over the world map indicates the presence of Intertech in those countries. We are having 1,000 plus laboratories and offices across the globe, and 3,000 plus auditors, with 100,000 audits being delivered globally every year, with the presence in more than 100 countries. So this is about the Intertech global presence worldwide. Now, coming to our topic of CE marking, this presentation is going to cover the agenda, which is evolution of medical device regulation, step-by-step evolution. What is changing from MDD to MDR? Those of you who have been familiar with the CE marking, they are aware about the medical device directive, and now it has already changed to medical device regulation. And what is the new regulatory framework? Who are the key players? And then what are the changes which has been brought in the regulation? So this is what we are going to cover. So first of all, you must understand that the CE marking is a regulatory requirement to to place your device in the European market. When we say the device CE marking, there are various regulations which applies to various products. But for discussion of today, we are limiting ourselves to the medical devices. So the medical devices which has been placed in the European market needs to have a CE marking. And if you go into the evolution of CE marking, starting from 1957 to 1993, there was no EU legislation. EU, as you understand, is the European Union, and each country was having its own legislation, own rule to, for the medical device. And you can imagine the size of, European countries, which is very small. So it was not very attractive for the outside manufacturer to comply with all those, individual regulations, if they have to go for the each country member state legislation approval or a registration approval. So the consequences was this: the difficulty to have an internal market for medical devices, and there was a necessity to harmonize the market. So which came with the solution of European Union. Currently there are 27 members, and which is also supported by the 3 EFTA states. So the first set of directive, medical device directive, or the directive which was published in the year 1990 with the active implantable medical devices, covering the active implantable devices, something like pacemakers, which goes inside the body and has a battery source to operate. So this directive was covered with the 90 by 385 by EC, European Council legislation. followed by a medical device directive which came in 1993, which cover all other medical devices other than the active implantable medical devices in the year 1993, with the 93/42/ European Council, and then followed by 1998, when the in vitro diagnostic medical devices was published. Now, the medical device directive was a new approach directive, and consequently, in order to manufacture it to legally place a medical device in the European market, the requirement of a medical device directive have to be met. So, this directive was brought in with the purpose that manufacturer essentially has to meet only these requirements. That means the medical device directive requirement to place the medical device into the European market, and they don't have to follow the no other legislation for the individual countries to cover these 27. So because they were the to cover these 27 countries, because all these 27 countries have adopted these directive into their national laws, and only one set of law which was applicable to the medical device, which was 93 as applicable 93/42 or 90/385. But this directive was changed from medical device directive to the medical device regulation, and we will not go into the revision process, but you can note down the date that from 26 earlier the date of change was 26 May 2020, when the medical device directive was changing into medical device regulation, but it was revised due to the pandemic situation worldwide, and the new date was 26 May 2021 about the medical device. And similarly, the in vitro diagnostic, just for the information purpose, the in vitro diagnostic directive is also changing into in vitro diagnostic regulation from 26 May 2022. So now what's happening with the the earlier directive was the active implantable medical device, as well as the medical device directive has been converted into one single regulation, which is 2017/745, which is the present regulation to place your device in the European Union plus 3 EFTA countries. Similarly, for the in vitro diagnostic medical devices, the the regulation, the directive has been is going to convert into 2017/746, which will be the new regulation for the in vitro diagnostic directive. So the nomenclature of the new regulation would be 2017/745, as you can see on your screen. It is of 5 April 2017 on medical devices, which amends the the old directive which was applicable to the devices, and now only one set of requirement which is applicable to the medical devices is 2017/745. Now, just to discuss a little bit about what is the difference between a directive and regulation. Primarily, the medical device directive was a legislation which was ratified by European Parliament and transposed into by national law by each member state. So that means each member state has to adopt these directive into their national laws separately once it has been ratified by the Parliament, and then each member state, with the member state I am referring to the European countries, European Union countries, that they have to adopt these laws into their own, to convert them into their own national laws, to make it as a this one set of requirement which is required to place the device in the market. But the regulation, when it comes to, it is directly coming to the fore. So that means the member state now don't have to make a separate law to to make it as a national law, to make it as a regulatory requirement. This is directly enforced on them. So all the member state, all the EU countries, as well as the 3 EFTA members have adopted this as a regulation, and they are already a part of this, and it applies directly to them, and it applies directly to all the European framework, the other bodies, which, as we will see in the our presentation, which becomes within the frame, which comes within the framework of these regulations. So new regulatory framework covers the European Commission, Parliament, Council, member state, EU, EA, EFTA, notified bodies, manufacturers, authorized representative, importers, and distributors. So you can imagine that it's a very comprehensive regulation which has been published by the Europe, which includes, everybody, involved with the medical devices under the framework of the regulation. Now we will understand a little bit about the roles of these, bodies. Under the new regulatory framework, the medical device working group constellation has been formed, and basically these regulations now cover everything related to the medical devices, be it electronic labeling, be it a clinical investigation, IVD technical group, notified body operation group, compliance and enforcement group, classification and borderlines. Everything is now within the framework of this rule, has been brought in under the framework of these rules. Medical device medical device regulation. There are two sets of groups which exist. One is a medical device expert group and medical device coordination group. Medical device coordination groups publishes time to time the guidance documents on various applicable requirements of the medical device regulation, whereas the medical device expert group gives the expert opinion on the certain high risk of the devices, which is class 3 or class 2B implantable devices. Now, when we talk about the regulation, it's important for us to understand how this regulation has been structured. So primarily, there are three parts in the regulation. There are the first part consists of 101 whereas. It starts with each para starts with the whereas, which talks about the why this regulation has been formed, what is the background behind this. Then there are 10 chapters of covering 123 article, which is a legal requirement for a medical devices. Medical devices manufacturers, notified body, and all those the bodies which comes under the regulatory, which comes under the framework of this regulation. So this defines the legal requirement concerning the medical devices. Now, how the device would be put in the market, what would be the requirement, what would the device would be, what requirements essentially the medical device has to meet. All this has been defined under the chapter 123, which is a legal requirement. Now, the third part of the regulation is there are 17 annexes, which talks about how part of this. So under how, they would be covering the how to achieve the compliance to these legal requirements. So it starts with the general safety and performance requirement, technical documentation on, post-market surveillance, EU declaration of conformity, CE marking of conformity, European UDI system, which is electronic labeling system, which has been brought in, requirement to be met by the notified bodies, classification of rules, conformity assessment, QMS and technical documentation, conformity assessment, type examination, conformity assessment rules, basically they are talking about, certificates which are issued by notified body, what will be the content of those certificates, what should be minimally, to be produced on the certificates, procedure for the custom-made devices, clinical evaluation and post-market clinical follow-up, clinical investigations, product without an intended medical purpose, but still within the purview of medical device regulation, which needs compliance to the regulation. And similarly, correlation table between the earlier version of the regulation, the directives and the regulation. So this is how the structure of this new regulation has been formed. So what we are as a manufacturer, we need to comply with the 10 chapters of 123 article, which gives us the legal requirement, and then 17 annexes provide us the procedural requirement that how we can achieve the compliance to these 123 articles, or as applicable to the different interested parties, be it a notified body or be it a manufacturer. Now, scope of this medical device regulation covers the medical devices used for human use only and accessories of such devices. Medical device regulation also covers the clinical investigation concerning such medical devices and accessories conducted within the union. So it provides basically necessarily the rules that how to conduct the clinical investigation concerning these medical devices when you are placing these devices within the European Union. So you have to keep in mind that the medical devices has to be used only for the human use. It's not for the veterinary use or for any other purpose. So this particular regulation covers the medical devices only for the human use. The definition of medical devices, they have defined what is a medical device. It's a quite comprehensively, defined definition of medical devices. So, wherein they have also explained that the medical device is such that it achieves its principal intended use, but not by the pharmacological action or immunological action or a metabolic means. So anything else than that, which is supporting the all these purposes, whether the diagnosis, prevention, monitoring, or treatment of a disease, that would be considered as a medical device essentially. Devices for control of sport of conception, products specifically intended for the cleaning, disinfection, and sterilization of the devices. So anything the cleaning agent used for the cleaning of the medical devices is very well part of these medical device regulation. About the role of the economic operators, as they call new, there are 4 prime economic operators are roles have been defined, which is about the manufacturer, authorized representative, importers, and distributors. So let's understand who is who are these operators, what is their roles and functions for these manufacturers, authorized representative, importers, and distributors. So definition of a manufacturer within CE marking means a natural or legal person who manufactures or fully refurbishes a device or a device and has a device designated, manufactured, and fully refurbished, and markets that device under its own name and trade name. So what they are essentially saying, that the manufacturer can manufacture the device himself, can design the device himself, or can get it done from a by a subcontractor, but he is legally responsible for that device. He sells this device under his own trade name and brand name in the European market. So that is the definition of a manufacturer. He may manufacture the device himself, or he may outsource the manufacturing or design to a subcontractor. Now, the general obligation for a manufacturer, we are also giving references over here to the various articles which talks about these requirements. So manufacturer shall have a system for risk management, quality management system, conduct clinical evaluation for the devices, and compile technical documentation. We will go through some of these requirements in this presentation, and apply conformity assessment procedure, that how to affix CE mark on the device. So these are the responsibilities of the manufacturer. Manufacturer responsibilities continue to the next slide. Responsibility of their devices once they are on the market. He is still responsible when the device is there on the market. Having system in place to cover financial responsibility to harm caused by the defective devices. So now they need, the manufacturer and the European authorized representative established within the community need to have a sufficient financial responsibility coverage for anything, if any incident is reported on the device. And similarly, the manufacturer has to name a person responsible for the regulatory compliances within the organization, who would be responsible to cover all the regulatory compliances. Provide an implant card if the device is an implantable device, and draw a declaration of conformity, related to the medical device, and apply CE marking on the devices. And manufacturer outside EU and EEA have a contract with an authorized representative inside EU, EEA. So that means any manufacturer who is not placed within the EU, which is not within the legal boundary of the European Union or these 3 EFTA countries, then they need to appoint a European authorized representative who would be representing this manufacturer within the EU, and who is a legal person established within the EU, that will be the first contact point in case there is an incident reported on the device, and he is representing the manufacturer in the EU. So what is the definition of European authorized representative? Authorized representative means any natural or legal person established within the Union who has received and accepted a written mandate from a manufacturer located outside the union to act on the manufacturer's behalf in relation to the specified task with respect to latest obligation under the regulation. So that means he is a person who is representing the manufacturer, and he need to have a written mandate or a written agreement signed with the manufacturer, and he is the legal representative of the manufacturer established within the EU. General obligation of the authorized representative are that he must have at least one person responsible for the regulatory compliances. So we discussed about this, that one person is required at the manufacturer's end. They need to have a one person appointed for the regulatory compliances. Similarly, an authorized representative also need to appoint somebody who is having who is responsible for the regulatory compliances. The roles of economic operator within the framework of medical device regulation. UDAMED registration, we will discuss about this in coming slides. Technical documentation. The green portion which you see on your screen indicates that this is applicable to that they need to maintain one copy of the technical documentation. That means the manufacturer has to draw up the technical file, technical documentation, and EU authorized representative as well as importer and assembly of any system or procedure packs need to have this technical documentation ready with him. Similarly, for the design and development, manufacturer is prime responsibility, handling, storage, management of non-conformities. Everybody is equally responsible. Going further, field safety corrective actions, UDI labeling, post-market surveillance, complaints. So this particular slide gives the roles of the various economic operators within the framework of medical device regulation. Now, to begin as CE marking of a medical device, you first need to understand the risk associated with the usage of that particular device. And based on the risk, the devices has been classified into four main risk level: class 1, class 2A, class 2B, and class 3. It is slightly different than what you see in the Indian medical device rules, which talks about class A, B, C, D. And but European regulation talks about the four regulation in terms of class 1, class 2A, class 2B, and class 3. There are two more, or rather three more classifications are there under class 1. So any class 1 device which is sterilized is classified as class 1S. And any class 1 device which has a measuring function to perform, which is important for the patient safety, but it falls under class 1 category, that is classified as class 1M. And any device which is reusable but falls under the as a class 1 device, that is called as class 1R. So surgical instruments which are used on the patient, they may fall under class 1 for some cases, but since they are reusable, they are autoclaved and they are reused, they are classed as class 1R. Similarly, any device which is sterilized for class 1, it is called as class 1S, like PPE, surgical gowns, or sometimes the mask, which is a surgical mask, which is a class 1 device, but in case it is sterilized before being placed into the market, it is categorized as class 1S. Now, four set of rules, has been defined for the purpose of classification of the devices. Devices have been broadly categorized into few categories. Non-invasive devices, for which the classification has been defined under Annex 7, Section 4, Rule 1 to 4. So, non-invasive devices are which do not necessarily penetrate inside the human being, which remains on the surface only or are used from the outside. Similarly, invasive devices or surgical invasive devices or implantable devices are covered under the separate set of rules. Active devices are those devices which needs some source of energy for their operation, like electrical source for their operation to function. And there are other devices which are coming under the special rules. Now, special rules or special attention has been drawn to the devices like software. Software itself can be considered as a medical device if it is used for the treatment or for the diagnosis, purpose, and any manufacturer who is just manufacturing software can get a CE mark. Then the devices utilizing tissues and cells, devices incorporating nanomaterial, and devices composed of substances or combination of substances like medicinal substances, they would be covering under these rules. So the first duty of the manufacturer is to see whether the device falls under the medical device or not. And if it is a medical device, as per the medical device regulation, then what is the classification of the device, whether it is class 1, class 2A, class 2B, or class 3. Some of the examples of class 1, class 2A, 2B, and class 3 devices are being shown. So as you can see, class 1 is the lowest risk devices, and class 3 is the highest risk devices, mainly which can, affect the patient safety, which like heart valves, implantable circular simulator, pacemakers, breast implants, they are all, part of the class 3. Now, once you have decided the classification of the device, which rules it falls in, which class it falls in, then you can also choose the 3 possible way of, achieving the CE marking, the conformity assessment system. So conformity assessment system has been discussed in Annex 9, Annex 10, and Annex 11 of the medical device rule, which prescribes the methodology, how you can achieve the compliance to the, or how you can achieve the certification towards CE marking. The first rule is Annex 9, which is a conformity assessment based on quality management system and an assessment of technical documentation. This is one of the most common used method, which is where a notified body assesses your quality system and assess the technical documentation. We will discuss about this little bit further. So Annex 9, as we discussed, you need to file an application with the notified body, and that notified body assesses the technical documentation concerning for the each device category on the sampling basis, or maybe if the device is only single device, then they assess the technical documentation, and a quality management system audit performed on the manufacturer to ensure the compliance with respect to the the medical device regulation. This certificate, once the quality management system is assessed and the technical documentation is found in compliance with the medical device regulation, a certificate is issued for the period of 5 years. And in between 5 years, if there is a substantial change to your quality management system or the device range, which manufacturer is manufacturing, then they need to inform the notified body, because it may involve the reassessment of the quality management system and reassessment of the device. And as a part of the routine surveillance audit, like for ISO 13485 or 9001, there would be every year there is a regular surveillance assessments of the devices, which would be carried out within. So that means there would be 4 surveillance audits in the period of 5 years, because at the end of the 5th year there would be a recertification or the renewal of the certificate. The next conformity assessment system is based on the type examination, where the EU type examination, you can consider it as a design examination of the product, which is necessarily carried out by a notified body. They check the overall technical documentation, they assess the technical documentation, they see your clinical, review the clinical evidences which you have provided, they perform the physical tests on the device, and then issue a certificate. And any change to the device needs to be notified to the notified body. They will evaluate whether the change is significant or not, and based on that, if it's a change is significant, then a re-audit or a reassessment needs to be performed. The third methodology is based on the EU type examination certificate has already been issued, but to produce the devices in a batch or in masses, you need the notified body assesses the quality management system of the manufacturer, and issues a certificate to produce that particular type of device. Whereas the device already has been EU examined and has been tested, and a EU type examination certificate has been issued to the manufacturer. Within this, there is another provision is available where you can go for a particular batch of devices, CE marking of a particular batch of devices. That means only single batch or a single device which you are producing, that can also be CE certified. That where the EU type examination is already available, and you just go for a particular batch or a particular device assessment. Notified body evaluates the device and issues a CE certificate. Now, purpose of the conformity assessment, what is essentially the role of a notified body, is that the notified body has to make sure that the device is meeting the general safety and performance requirement, which is given under the Annex 1 of medical device rules. And they do this through the reviewing your technical documentation, which is given under the Annex 2 of medical device rules, medical device regulation, and also ensuring the compliance of your system as well as the product standards, utilizing the harmonized standards or a common specification, published by the European Union. Now, the harmonized standards are those standards, which are published in the official journal of European Union, and which, when implemented, will you can presume the manufacturer can claim, or presume the compliance to a particular requirement of a medical device regulation. Like when we talk about EN ISO 13485 2016, so if manufacturer implements EN 13485 2016, he can presume compliance to the quality management system requirement of the medical device regulation. Similarly, ISO 10993, which is a biocompatibility evaluation of medical devices. So if a manufacturer uses EN ISO 10993 standard, if he implements that, he can presume the compliance to the biological safety of the medical devices as defined under the Annex 1 of the General Safety and Performance Requirement. Now, what is essentially covered under the General Safety and Performance Requirement? Now, these General Safety and Performance Requirement are applicable to all medical devices, and the manufacturer has to make sure that devices meet these general safety and performance requirements. So, what are those? The device has to meet, it has to be safe and perform as intended. That what is the intended use of the device, it should function that. There should be, risk reduction and the risk management process. So that what are the risks associated with the usage of the device, and how are you controlling that? That means if a manufacturer is manufacturing, let's take an example of a syringe. So the device should be safe to use. That means it should not cause any infection, or it should not cause, it should cause minimum trauma to the patient when being used. So it has to safe, it has to perform its intended purpose. Intended purpose, if that is, if a 5 ml syringe needs to, inject 5 ml of the medicine into a patient, so it should serve the intended purpose that it is able to inject 5 ml. Now, risk reduction and risk management, what are the risks associated with this device? That needs to be, foresee. And then as a manufacturer, you need to apply the controls on these risks which you have identified through the design control, or by the operational control, or by updating the knowledge or giving awareness to the patient or to the end user. Then the risk management will be applied throughout the entire life cycle of the device. It will not be only at the design or the operation when you are manufacturing the device. It would also, risk management would be extended to the intended use as well as to the, the entire life cycle of the device. The general safety requirement would also be covering the packaging requirement and evaluation of the benefits of the achieved performance. That the risk level, whenever we are using a device, there would be risk associated with that, and the manufacturer is applying the controls to reduce the risk. But whatever the residual risks are there, the benefit of using this device should outweigh the risk associated with the residual risk associated with the device. Then the device has to be chemically, physically, and biologically safe, which will also include the infection and microbial contamination control, construction and environmental properties control, protection against radiation if the devices emit any radiations, electronic programmable systems. If their devices are having electronic programmable, they should not get affected with the, electronic fields nearby, so you need to get the device tested as per the various applicable standards, and active devices and devices connected to them, should function as intended. And of course, the protection against the mechanical and thermal risk, which will cover the detailed requirement of protection of the patient against mechanical risk, resistance to movement, moving parts, instability, etc. All this needs to be covered. Going further, protection against the risk posed to the patient and by or used by supplied energy or substances if the devices are active devices. So they should not, impose any risk to the patient through the electrical hazards or other associated hazards. Protection against the risk posed by the medical device intended by the manufacturer for use by, or information supplied by the manufacturer, that means for the awareness of the patient to be used. This is done for the implant cards mainly, the devices of the high risk medical devices. What should be covered under technical documentation? This is given under part Annex 2. Technical documentation necessarily provides the information about the complete, medical device. It talks about the device description, risk management process, information to be supplied by the manufacturer, design and manufacturing information, compliance to the general safety and performance requirement, how you have met the compliances to general and safety, and product verification and validation data, which will essentially include the preclinical and clinical data and additional information on specific cases. Now, medical device regulation has brought in a, electronic, the data bank, European data bank on medical devices, and to bring out the transparency in this medical device certification process. This EUDAMED is already operational, and it would be, so all the information concerning the device would be available for each manufacturer or each European economic operator. Their information would be available on the EUDAMED, and this information would be available free of cost to everybody who wants to have any information on the device, on the certification process, which was the notified body who has certified the device. So all this information would be published on a EUDAMED in a transparent manner. Now, key changes which has been brought in for this, there are scope and classification for the medical device regulation has changed with respect to the earlier directive, and manufacturer has to ensure the compliances to the to the new rules as far as because the classification of the devices which was earlier there as per the old directive, some of the devices has changed. More emphasis has been given on the post-market surveillance and vigilance reporting on the device. Now, manufacturer of class 3 or class 2B implantable, devices has to publish a periodic safety update report and need to publish this on the through notified body, and this information would be available on the EUDAMED. So anybody, can access the what were the major complaints on the medical devices, what was the trend on various events or adverse event reported on the devices, and anybody can access this information on the EUDAMED. The role of economic operator and has been defined clearly in the rules regulation, and person responsible for the regulatory compliances needs to be appointed. That means within the organization at the manufacturer end as well as at the European authorized representative, they need to appoint a person who understands the regulatory requirement and who is responsible for compliance of compliance to the medical device regulation. There have been changes affecting the notified body, and the criteria to qualified notified body has become very strict. Earlier in the medical device directive, you can imagine there were 56 notified bodies who were operating, and in new rules, medical device regulation, only 19 notified bodies are there. serve the client for CE marking globally. So you can imagine the amount of business from 56 to 19, and it will create an impact on the the certification timelines, as well as it may have impact on the manufacturer's business also, because if your product is not CE certified, you can't place this in the European market. A new system of the electronic identification of the devices has been brought in, called unique device identification. And unique device identification for class 3 is already has been implemented, has become mandatory, and class 2A needs to be in place from 2022, and by 2025 all devices being supplied to Europe need to have a UDI implemented, unique device identification. Clinical evaluation has been made more strict. Earlier there was a provision available where you can establish the equivalence of your device to the already existing device in the market and can declare your product to be clinically safe. Now the rules have become more strict. So in order to establish the clinical equivalence to an existing device, the manufacturer has to adopt to these regulations, which has a set of requirements which needs to be met in terms of the technical, clinical, and biological equivalence a manufacturer has to establish for an already established product within the European Union. So the rule have become more strict with respect to this, and in addition, manufacturer has to publish safety and performance data every year. Publish safety and performance data, and this information needs to be available on the EUDAMED related to the device, especially for class 3 devices and class 2B implantable devices. This we already covered. So what is essentially the CE marking? Check devices within the scope of medical device rules and determine the device class, whether it is class 1, class 2A, class 2B, or class 3, and select your conformity assessment procedure, how you want to comply with this. Identify applicable safety and performance requirement as given in Annex 1 of the medical device rules. Assign unique device identification, compile technical documentation, apply the conformity assessment procedures, and complete declaration of conformity, affix CE mark, and post-market surveillance and update. Once the CE mark has been affixed, device has been placed in the device in the European Union, then you need to, from time to time, you need to perform post-market surveillance and update the periodic safety update report yearly. So this was a little bit about the CE marking process. Any questions?
Yes, Mr. Singh, we have a couple of questions in the Q&A box. So there's one question. Both CE and US FDA require compliance of many ISO and IEC standards, but currently in India there are no accredited bodies for the same. So how do we go ahead for CE and US FDA in that case?
Both CE and US FDA require compliance of so many ISO and IEC, but currently in India there are no bodies for the same. The question is not clear because there are bodies now which are performing the test as per the various applicable harmonized standards. Depending upon which are these standards, there are labs available in India who can perform these tests. I don't know, are they having any specific thing in mind? We can discuss it on a side to side, on case to case basis, that which are the tests they are talking in particular.
Okay. Then we can move on to the next question by the same person. So devices like ventilator, nasal cannulas came under which category? Is it class 1M or class 1S?
No, the ventilator is a class 2B device, and others we can check. The nasal cannula also, it would be definitely under class 2A or so, but we can evaluate the rules. It's difficult to comment like this that these which category. We will have to see the rules as per the regulation.
Okay. What is self-certification related to CE?
Yes. One part which we missed in this presentation was that, there are, as we mentioned, there are 4 classification of the devices: class 1, class 2A, class 2B, and class 3. And class 1 is further divided into class 1S and class 1M and class 1R. Now, other than, class 1 devices, which are simple class 1 devices, all devices needs intervention of a notified body. That means certificate needs to be issued by a notified body. Only class 1 devices can be self-certified.
Okay.
So that means, if you, let's say, if the manufacturer is manufacturing a manual wheelchair and it's a class 1 device, so he can self-certify this.
Okay. I hope that answers the participant's question. The next question is cost of CE certifications for different classes. Just a ballpark figure.
No. That is not possible, because it will depend upon so many things, so many factors.
Correct.
So we will have this,
Mohit, if you have a specific case in mind, do write to me. I'll share my email ID in the chat box. Yeah, so we can get you connected with Mr. Singh separately offline. Okay, there's another question. What is the procedure for CE certification for AI software used for triaging and notification?
First of all, we need to see whether it falls under the definition of a medical device. If yes, then what is the risk level associated with the software? Which class of software is this? And then we need to choose the compliance, conformity assessment procedure. Whether the intervention of a notified body is required or not, that will depend upon the risk level associated with the usage of this software. Right?
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Because this device is a very technical subject, so we need to evaluate each and every device before we can comment on that.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Now I would request Anil sir to please give a vote of thanks to Jenna sir and Mr. Parvinder Singh. Anil sir, are you around? Okay, I think Anil sir has dropped out. Anyways, thank you so much, Jana sir and Singh sir, for giving such an informative session. Although there are certain queries which remain unanswered, but I would request all the participants in the audience to please write to us in case you have any specific query, or if you want to get connected with either of the speakers, we can facilitate that. And I am just sharing my email ID in the chat box. You can write to me. And yeah, thank you, Jana sir and Parvinder sir, for the highly informative session.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.